Sit back and throw one back with your pinky in the air and a middle finger to the world, and join me, the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, as we look back on this day in pro wrestling history. But before we do, put that drink down, like, share, and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get our wrestling history on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is July 19th, and we're going to start off as we always do on a positive note. That's right, these are your pro wrestling birthdays. 1958, one half of the greatest babyface tag team of all time, Robert Gibson. 1971, journeyman wrestler Mike Modest. 1977, one part of the FBI, Tony Mama Luke. 1986, former WWF World Champion, Jinder Mahal. And last but not least, 1988, the luchador known as Daga. Of course, on the flip side of that coin, your pro wrestling deaths for July 19th. 1998, women's trailblazing wrestler, June Byers. 2013, one half of the Mongols, Ghetto Mongo. Alright, enough of the sad stuff. It's time to get to the meat and potatoes. That's right, these are your pro wrestling history highlights for July 19th. Jumping in the Wayback Machine today and going to 1960. Verne Gagne and Leo Nominelli defeat Murder Inc. for the AWA World Tag Team titles in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That next year in 1961, Shoulders Newman and Ted Travis defeat Neff Miavia and Billy White Wolf for the NWA Hawaiian Tag Team titles. Our final stop in the 60s, 1968, Fritz Von Erich and Grizzly Smith defeat The Spoiler and Gary Hart in Houston, Texas to win the NWA America Tag Team titles, later renamed the World Class Tag Team titles. Grabbing my bell bottoms and making one stop in the 70s, 1971, Thunderbolt Patterson and Turo Tanaka defeat Johnny Valentine and Wahoo McDaniel to win the NWA America Tag Team titles. Grabbing my boombox and going to the 80s, 1980, Pierre Martel defeats Mr. Fuji to win the WWC North American Heavyweight title. That next year in 1981, El Solitario defeats Eric Embry in Mexico City, Mexico to win the UWA World Junior Light Heavyweight title. 1987, Bruno Sammartino substituted for Jake Roberts in the main event of a WWF show at the Spectrum in Philadelphia, defeating Intercontinental Champion the Honky Tonk Man via countout. 2 years later, in 1989, the WWF held a marathon television taping, which was the norm in those days, at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. The show had well over 20 matches taped for Saturday night's main event, Primetime Wrestling, and Superstars, with the main event seeing the Brainbusters, Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, defeating Demolition to win the WWF Tag Team Championships in a 3 falls match, when Anderson pinned Smash to win the 3rd fall after Blanchard had hit him with a chair. Grabbing my flannel and going to the decade of grunge, 1997, Ian Rotten defeated Bull Payne in Louisville, Kentucky to win the IWA Mid-South Heavyweight title. Sticking in 1997, ECW held their Heatwave event at the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with notable matches such as the Gangsters defeating the Dudley Boys to win the ECW World Tag Team titles in a steel cage weapons match. This ended the Dudleys' second reign and began the second and final title reign for the Gangsters. The Gangsters would never defend the belts as Mustafa would leave the company, and ECW would push a story that he was injured in this match. And of course, Rob Van Dam, Sabu, and Jerry Lawler versus Tommy Dreamer, the Sandman, and a mystery partner never took place. Rick Rude, working as an announcer, came down to team with Sandman and Dreamer, but then he turned on them, leading to a long brawl. This would also be Jerry Lawler's last ECW arena appearance, at least appearance in the ECW that we know and love. Those were your short but sweet pro wrestling history highlights for July 19th. I'm the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, and we'll see you tomorrow.